We're in an industry where decisions are not made for 5-year durations. Decisions have historically been made for 30-plus year durations. And when you make a bet for 30 years, you better make sure that the technology works and works as advertised. Our testing brethren, therefore, frequently joke with our consulting friends that they're the ones who keep us honest, they're the ones who keep us grounded. So what is it that we're really talking about today? Because the question of how do you derive value from the smart grid implies that there is some kind of a preordained definition of what a smart grid is. And I think that if I independently went to each and every table here and asked you to define your sense of smart grid, what you would discover is that that agreement really does not exist in this room, in the industry, or, quite frankly, to our stakeholders, including our customers and shareholders.
And one of the underlying things that I believe in is that a lot of these technologies, the energy industry in and of itself is moving to the digital world. And as with all things digital, the costs improve using an exponential curve. And when we're at the bottom of the curve, you don't see the exponential movement, but then you hit the hockey stick and progress happens very quickly. And that's a big part of how we think this technology, whether it's PV, whether it's technology like Bloom, whether it's batteries, the cost of batteries in electric vehicles, we believe we are very quickly going to hit that hockey stick part of the curve, and things will progress at a much rapid pace than they're already progressing today. We've talked all morning around the change, and I would summarize it into 4 key themes. The first one is that the value will shift downstream in the industry value chain. It will shift towards the consumer. A lot more products and services, the consumer's ability to integrate with the grid, vehicle-to-grid technology, for example, new energy management services. We see a lot of value migrating down from the generation down to the consumer. The second key point is that new entrants, be it retailers, be it technology companies like a Google, be it a Bloombox, Bloom Energy, are going to disintermediate the utility from its end consumers. We believe that a key challenge over the next 10 years is going to be for utilities to really capture that strong relationship they have today with the consumer and make sure they're not disintermediated. We saw the presentation on the solar industry earlier, and how the gentleman was saying that he would like to partner with utilities, finding those propositions to make sure the utilities stay connected with their customers as we go through this disruptive change. The third one is that T&D networks, particularly on the distribution side, are going to be disrupted, either disintermediated completely with the event of distributed generation, like solar, or disrupted in a significant ways with new technologies like PEV and vehicle-to-grid. And finally, the last one is inevitable, is China will overtake us in the smart grid economy. Just the volumes, the fact that they are starting, as we said earlier this morning, without the legacy. In terms of volume, they will overtake us in terms of smart grid investment. Hopefully, there's a way to play this to our advantage and to retain the IP and the innovation that is core to our country. The other thing that's critical is that we need to learn from China.
I want to share some broad concepts with you today about where I think the industry should go. Marty asked us to consider a 5-year period, which strategically is probably about right. Strategies that go much beyond that tend to get stale before their time. This was something that President Obama sent out in his last State of the Union address. So the future is ours to win, but to get there, we can't just stand still. And I think that's an imperative for our business today. Historically, utilities have not been the best strategists on the planet. I mean, frankly, we used to do strategies when I started in the business 30 years ago, and we put them on the shelf and never looked at them. I think business imperatives are going to change that. We're going to talk a little bit about those today. But I do think there was a problem. If anyone remembers what the goal was in this statement, and that was that 80% of the generation, essentially the energy produced, should be produced by clean energy sources by 2035. Now, if John F. Kennedy had set a similar goal to that, in the early 1960s about the space program, he would have said, we're going to develop the best solid fuel rockets in the world. That's great. What do you do with it? The goal we've established to move forward is not the right goal, in my opinion. The goal should be that we're going to have the most reliable, the most cost-effective energy in this country on the planet so that we are the most competitive economy on the planet. And if renewable energy helps to get us there, that's great. If it doesn't, it shouldn't play. If carbon-intensive energy sources help get us there, that might be good if they can control carbon. If they can't, that might be a challenge. But we've got to set the right goal. I think that's the right goal. Having no policy is policy. We get a lot of people with a lot of opinions about how the industry ought to function, but nobody gets us there. We've got to rally around a policy that moves the whole industry forward, accomplishes as many of the goals as we can reasonably accomplish with the financial restrictions that we have on us today. My dad used to say, don't let amateurs run your business. He was in a much different business than I am. He was in the trucking industry before it was deregulated for about 40 years. And if you were in that business in those days, the Interstate Commerce Commission used to like to tell you how to run your business. Trucking manufacturers used to like to tell you how to run your business. But if you didn't really know how the business functioned, none of them could tell you that business that well. It's the same way today. We have a lot of different folks in this business today that want to tell us how to run the business. Whether it's consultants like me, whether it's OEMs, whether it's some of the people we've heard from already today, the fundamental issue, though, is do the people who run the utilities in this country today run their business? And can they stand unified to run that business in a way that allows us to be the most competitive nation on the planet? And I think that's where we need to head. But we can't do it until the industry begins to talk in a more unified fashion.